Don't mind me dropping by yet again to talk about houses, specifically building mine in 3D. In the last video of this series, which you should totally watch if you haven't already, I made this. And now I'm going to make some more stuff. But first, planning. In the last video, I drew the reference for the front of the house as well as the beginnings of the house's layout, which, dare I say, is the pinnacle of creativity. I mean, look at it! It's a square! Riveting stuff, isn't it? Yeah, I'm changing that. Originally, I had the idea of having this arch and column combo surround the whole perimeter of the house, but variety is the spice of life, so I kept just half of the colonnade, only cutting it off at the back to add more space for a greenhouse and the stage left side for an extension. It's not that extreme of a change, but I think it looks far more compelling and charming than what I had conceptualized before, as it gives something to look at on every side as opposed to just the front being the interesting part of the build. I also took it upon myself to do layouts for the first and second floor, neither of which are drastically different from the ground floor, but still unique enough in their own way. I am now going to take a moment of your time to introduce you to my favorite little addition. This right here is supposed to represent a balcony that overlooks the greenhouse. It'll be closed, as to maintain the virtual temperature of the greenhouse, but I think it would be such a cute little spot for a table to have digital tea and read a book. I did start drafting up room layouts for each floor, but I'm not too enamored with anything I've drawn quite yet, so that's a future me problem. Though I have delegated certain rooms to different floors. The master bedroom will be on the second floor, as will the craft room and potentially a guest room or two. The foyer will obviously be on the first floor, in addition to the kitchen and dining room combo, the parlor, and the living room. I intend on splitting the library between the first and second floor. Finally, on the ground floor, I'll have a theater room, an arcade, maybe another guest room, and potentially a little kitchenette. These plans aren't set in stone. If anything, I've written them in sand by the ocean, and so I'm open to any room suggestions you may have. So, leave a comment if you have any. Which brings me to my absolute favorite part of this series, modeling something. To start, I brought my freshly drawn reference into the Maya project and sized it to scale. It doesn't have to be accurate or perfect, but rather good enough to help with visualizing where I want things to go. Then I proceeded to arrange the arches on the reference. All the while, I'm making sure that there are no gaps and it's all cohesive. In the last video, I had made 2 pillar variants, one to go in between the arches and one to go at the end. I knew back then that I need to make one for the corners like this one, but at the time, I decided to do it later. It is now later. So I grabbed 2 of the in-between pillars and essentially worked to mash them together, deleting the parts that overlap and merging or bridging the parts that coalesce. Towards the end, I mirrored my work so as to not have to repeat everything step by step. And voila! Corner pillar. Next up on the chopping block is the tower base. I placed down arches where I wanted them to be as kind of a visualizer, but now it's time to actually work on them. I wanted this part of the colonnade to have 2 arches coming together to one base. The process is incredibly similar to what I did for the corner pillar. In fact, some might even say it's the same. Cut up parts that overlap, mash together the rest. It was a little more complicated than the pillar due to the amount of detail I put in the arches, but all that means is I'm spending more time making sure it's cohesive. Once I have 2 columns together meeting at the middle, next is just copying what I've done, placing it where I need it to go, and merging both copies together at an easier point, such as the top of the arch, until I have a rounded colonnade. Moving on to the brick section that goes over the arches, the process is, again, much the same. The one difference is that I spent some time modeling an individual brick that I can use to pretty much round out the wall without having to bend pre-existing bricks. This is because, unlike the arches or the pillar, the brick wall isn't as flexible to work with. I figured it'd look nicer if I laid down the bricks where I wanted them to be, and then worked to merge everything together. Now, here is where I would put the video of me continuing to work on the bricks and then later on the trim, if I had it. I had a little bit of an oopsie-doopsie, and by that, I mean the program I was using to record my screen had a little bit of a tiff, and decided to not actually record, even though it said it was recording. So you'll have to take my word for it when I say the process was pretty much the same, and you're really not losing out on much. As a consolation prize, though, you can see me tweaking what I've done to make it look nice and also have a good finish. Next, I took the brick template I already had and started stacking it up to make a taller template so that it matches the height of everything else. Theoretically, all I have to do is just copy and paste the taller templates side by side and I'll have a complete wall. But then I remembered that unlike the colonnade, I want to have some variety. You know, things like windows, doors, and that one bay window area in the corner over there. So I decided I should probably go back to Procreate and draw up more references, which, by the way, I never actually ended up doing because instead I drew up concepts for the greenhouse. I already knew I wanted the greenhouse to have a Victorian style, simply because the amount of detail work is gorgeous, and I'm biased. As I was drawing up the concept, I decided to add a little detail here and there as a nod to two games I quite enjoyed playing. It helped that for one of them, I'm pretty sure Victorian glasshouses was also a point of inspiration, and the other was a simple yet cute addition that matched the look. Unlike the colonnade and the brick wall template, I actually have to start from scratch when it comes to the greenhouse. I'll be starting with the easier things to model, which includes the base of the greenhouse panel and the dead cell muttons. Oh, wait, brief Maya crash intermission. Okay, moving on. Here, you'll see me mostly extruding different faces to get the shapes that I want, and then merging it onto the panel base I made. That's mostly what I'm going to be doing for the entirety of the greenhouse. I'll grab a shape and keep adjusting it by either extruding faces, bridging faces together, merging or moving vertices, and adding or deleting edge loops. It really helps that I'm modeling something inorganic, as most of it is harsh edges and angles. Ah, another crash. And we're good. Let me tell you about two of my favorite tools for curvy details. This one is the Bezier Curve tool, and the way that it works is in an orthographic view, I'll draw up the shape that I want. Then I can use the second tool called the Curve Warp Deform to take a rectangle with as many edge loops as I deem necessary and warp it to fit the shape that I just drew. I could technically do what I've done so far and just extrude a face until I get the shape that I want, but this wombo combo of tools definitely speeds up the process. What's really cool is that you can adjust the warp however you want and get closer to the shape that you were thinking about, at least until you clear the history to finalize the warp. What you're seeing now is me merging everything into one object and trying to keep in mind how metal looks when it's soldered together. Up close, it doesn't look like anything special, but I think small details like this really shine when you look at them from a distance. Of course, I want to do this while keeping the number of polygons to a minimum, since the more detail I add, the slower the file will be. It's fine now and will be for a while, but when I start modeling more and more, that's when I'll start to notice. Moving on to the circular mountains. They were a doozy to figure out how to model, mostly because at first I wasn't sure how exactly I'd want to go about it. I ended up using half a circular plane as reference where I wanted the moons to go, and then worked to get the detail in there. For brevity's sake, I've been editing out a lot of the mishaps and failed attempts at modeling things while only really showcasing the work that made it to the final iteration of the build. But I'd still like to emphasize that this isn't a straightforward process where I knew what I was going to do from the get-go. As with all art, there was a lot of Ctrl-Z and deletion happening behind the scenes. I think of modeling as a testament of patience and experience, with a bit of a learning curve. I got a few comments in the past videos of people who mentioned that they were beginning to learn how to model, which I think is absolutely awesome. And I think good advice would be to just keep going. The more you do it, the easier it gets. It's very time-consuming, but I think it's a worthwhile skill to have. There's a lot of other 3D programs aside from Maya and a myriad of resources available to learn. But that's enough of that for now. While I was rambling, I started working on the door. I'm honestly just reusing a good chunk of assets I did for the glass panel, but editing it to fit better. It helps both with saving time and keeping everything within the theme. And just like with the main entrance, I do intend on eventually adding a rig to these doors to be able to animate them to open and to close. After the door was done, I started putting everything together and merging it all. Then I remembered I still had to make a small panel that goes on either side of the door and... Okay, looks like I lost progress this time. Oh well, let's just fast forward. If you've been keeping count, this would make my third Maya crash. And fortunately for this video, it is the last one. Anyways, as I was saying, I made a smaller glass panel and merged everything together. After that, I moved back to the brick. I decided I should probably start easy by making a template for where the brick corners meet. I pretty much just reused the brick template, cut it up, and shifted it around. Pretty simple for the most part. Now here, my viewers, I'd like you to use your mind's eye. Imagine, just for a second, I decided to use a different screen recording software and successfully recorded everything. You'd have seen me essentially take the brick template and make a window variant, a shorter variant, and an end variant. Finally, in this thought exercise, you also saw me make the bay windows. Isn't that so fascinating? I'm so happy you got to see me model it all. And now, you get to see me continue to work on the modeling process as if nothing strange happened at all. All that's really left for me to do is the same thing I did with the colonnade, where I just put the brick templates together and then merge it all up. The one thing I do want to point out is that I purposely made the windows a lot thicker than the brick walls, as I want them to also show up on the interior. So I'm leaving just enough space for when I start modeling the inside. The same caveat can be said with the door frames. While you watch me do this, I'm going to take a minute of your time to talk about this channel. In the last long-form video I posted back in August, I had just hit 1,000 subscribers. And now, 3 months later, I have more than 80,000. Thank you for that! This also opened the doors for the first step of YouTube partnership, which means I can now have channel members. Which reminds me, special thanks to the 3 of you who joined before I even made an announcement. If you enjoy my work and want to support me, I'd greatly appreciate it if you join my members or my Patreon. And after this video, I'll be posting my long-form videos a few days earlier for both my channel members and my patrons as a thank you. I'm the only person working on this channel, and it takes me a while to create content, especially since I'm working on this part-time. So, videos come in slow. I try to offset it by making shorts between long-form videos, but it still takes a while. So if I disappear for a bit without a warning, it's because I'm cooking something in the background, not because I abandoned this channel. Anyways, voila! That's the majority of the ground floor done. I still need to make a few things before I can move onwards to the first floor, but for now I'm satisfied, and also this video is already very long. As always, thank you guys for watching. If I don't post anything until the new year, happy holidays, and toodaloo!